people watching it. And, you know, I mean, if you've seen clips from Live Aid or any of these big, gigantic concerts where, you know, the singers, everybody clap their hands. They're all doing it in unison, or they're playing a particular song or melody, and, I mean, everyone is feeling it. I mean, that's a pretty powerful thing.
Yes.
And with the Beatles, again, I mean, that was just huge, the world response to their music. And the fact that John Lennon mainly used sort of that power, if you want to call it that, you know, for good, to, you know, stop the war and for peace. And, I mean, that's a huge responsibility, and he could have done anything with it and said, I want, you know, I'm king of the world or whatever. He used it for good reasons, and they really got to applaud that, what they did, how they changed the world with their music, which they did. They changed the entire world. So, again, it was music. I mean, and then you look at the beginning of my Part 2 video talks about music all over the world, and when we did that millennium thing, you know, when it changed over to 2000, it seemed everyone was celebrating with music. You know, it's such a underestimated, powerful force that's another reason what got me into this. I just kept thinking there's more. There's more to this than just chords and music and notes on a page. There's so much more to it, and I don't want people to think it's old because it's related to math or boring or anything, because it's just, there's so much more to it that is undiscovered and that we just don't know. We don't really know exactly how it works, or, you know, but if you can define these relationships, you can understand the universe much, much better. And back to what he originally said about, yes, going out of body and vibration, all that, I mean, absolutely. I've always believed there's something else here than just our physical selves. I've sort of proven that to myself over the years, but witnessing certain things and experiencing certain things, at least to me anyways, there's definitely something else out there, although I would never try to force someone to believe the same thing. I have a lot of friends also that do not believe in any of this, but they still are open-minded and willing to talk about it. I think that's very important, too, that people get a good, you know, clear, coherent perspective of, you know, have some skepticism in there as well. And like you said, a balance, you know. So when studying this stuff, always keep an open mind and be ready to be proven wrong or something else out there, or maybe none of this is correct, you know. Always be willing to, you know, just keep an open mind and look at it more like a scientist, and with spiritualism as well at the same time. You know, those two can be combined very nicely.
Yes, of course. And, you know, I'm also drawn to the fact that if we talk about the power of music and the emotional response that people can have from listening to it, we can even talk of it in terms of emotional energy, if you will. And I mean, on this radio show, we've also been talking a lot about conspiracy and the people that are involved in trying to control the world and steer it in the way they want to. I've been kind of focusing a little bit on the fact that music potentially also could be used for nefarious reasons in regards to a huge crowd like that standing in front of a band like that, or what have you. There's a tremendous amount of energy and you know, intent, if you will, that is kind of gathered at that one spot at that same time, you know, in a way. And that's also very interesting to me, I think. Have you looked into that at all, James?
Well, yeah, I'm interested in that too. I do believe, yes, in a way there is, sure, the controlling of the masses have been going on since the days of Pharaoh and the slaves and all that, and certainly going on today. Anyone that doesn't recognize that is blind. It's almost like economic slavery. I mean, yes, and we have freedom and all that, but at the same time, there's a certain amount of families and money, and it's all corporate run now. But here's an example of music used nefariously, like you said, is what about jingles? You know, your commercial for McDonald's, or the little, you know, da-da-da-da-da, this little, you know, phrase that they use music. It really makes it stick.
Yes.
So someone's walking around going, McDonald's, hey, da-da-da-da-da. They hear those notes. It's very powerful, and it is used for nefarious reasons, if you want to call it that, in advertising, and even in I think there was a Project HARP, and there's all sorts of sonic weapons and things like that as well. So,
yes,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as conspiracies, I mean, I'm interested in a lot of that stuff. But again, always keep an open mind and and willing to see. But I mean, absolutely, the world is controlled, or whatever you want to call it, economically, you know. And then to me, it's mind blowing that there's thousands of people starving to death, and there's enough food on the planet to feed everyone.
Yes.
And I mean, it's just it's sad. I mean, you want to talk about the state of the world, but that's kind of how it's always been. And you know, music. You know, we're talking about those big crowds. I mean, that's a way to break out of that as well. People can get together on one note, or get together on that standard, you know, or get together on something. I've always believed it can break that spell.
Yes, indeed, I totally agree. And it's, as you say, it's more about being aware of these things, how they are potentially used against you, and I think awareness is the key in that regard to unbreak that spell, or you know, to break away from the subtle, if you will, manipulation that potentially is going on around you, and not being drawn down by it and being paranoid by it or anything like that, because that I think that plays into the hands of the controllers as much as being just fooled by it anyway. So I think it's more about regaining your power and becoming more aware. And you talked about that in the beginning of the program. It's more about becoming intelligent and also interested in what the heck is going on around you. You know, as a human being, all of these, you know, wonderful things is happening around you, but many people don't sit down and take the time to study them or understand them. They're just experiencing them on some level. And obviously nothing wrong with that, but again, if one wants to go one step further, to analyze it and to understand it, that's kind of the next level up, if you follow me. Absolutely.
And yeah, like you said, if you go kind of too far with it, then you're labeled crazy, or he's just a nut job. He thinks you know, paranoid, or there's this big conspiracy. But yeah, again, awareness, that's a great word, and coherency, you know, and just have a certain level of just objective, you know, intelligence and awareness, and you can easily see what's going on around us. There's no doubt about that.
No, exactly. I mean, this has been a fascinating interview, James, having you on, talking about all these various things, and I know that there's 100 and more topics out there to discuss. Is there anything more that you'd like to kind of, as we begin to round things up here for this time, that you would like to leave us with, or mention, or another kind of interesting area that we haven't touched upon at all?
Well, I think we covered a lot of stuff pretty well. Maybe we'll do another interview another time, but sure, if you know, those who seek will find. So if you really want to seek this stuff, or music in particular, or the code and the pyramids, especially now with the internet, oh my God, it's very easy to find.
Yes.
I would look up Karl Munk's name. His last name is Munck. His work is pure genius. My stuff's very easy to find. You type in geomusic and you'll find it, and it's easy to get the DVD and stuff. And I say, you know, work with it yourself. And you know, if you're interested in this, there's this huge puzzle out there, and everyone can be working on it a little bit at a time, and it takes maybe people from different fields and different backgrounds, and a lot of times through history, it's not a scientist or a mathematician that discovers these things. It's somebody does something completely different, and they can look at math or science out of the box, or, you know, in a different way, to discover something that's never been discovered before. So don't be afraid to, if you're a painter and you paint houses, to all of a sudden get interested in archaeoastronomy or something different, because usually through history it's someone not of that particular field that discovers something in, you know, that field. So
yes.
But yeah, it's been great. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah.
And
wonderful having you on, James. And I also want to mention, just keep us, you know, posted on what's going on. And I know that you've been, you know, taking a break, as you said, for quite a few years now in that regard. But if there's, you know, any new developments, if you're going back into the game, as it were, I mean, or if not as so, I mean, we'd love to have you back on the program anyway and talk more about this, because we've kind of briefly touched upon it. And as I get further into many of these topics as well, I'd definitely love to have you back at some point. So keep us posted, okay?
Yes, I will. My email address is jamesfuria@aol.com, and if anyone sends me an email, I'll put you on my list, and you may get an update once every month, or maybe one in 3 years from now, but I do send them out when there's anything new. Where I left my work was with atoms and protons and electrons, and I'm looking at stuff on a quantum level. There is a link to MySpace, which gives a chapter to an audio book that I'm working on. So anything new I come up with, definitely I will send little updates, but it's been slow going with the break and all that, but I do plan on picking it up again very soon.
Ah, sounds good. Excellent. Again, keep up the wonderful work and keep us posted, and we'll talk more soon, okay, James?
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eyes I see, there's a place for me, and life is full of questions, and that keeps me alive.